Hello guys, welcome to my new video, and today we'll be talking about healer discussion for patch 8.3. There's been a lot of questions asked by a lot of people based on the changes that happen for 8.3 or changes that are going to happen for 8.3, and it's probably something you're probably referring to these changes to do with Mistweavers, to do with nerfs to Holy Paladin, to do with nerfs with Discipline Priest, and basically a lot of people are panicking, a lot of people are happy, a lot of people are not sure what's gonna happen. There's a lot of confusion out there. There's been a lot of theory crafting already done about these changes, and to be completely honest, the nerfs to Holy Paladin and Discipline are somewhat small and ineffective in terms of what Blizzard is trying to achieve. The intention is clear here. Blizzard wants the meta healers of Holy Paladin with Glimmer of Light and Discipline Priest to be less overpowered in progression mythic raid, because a lot of the guilds, you probably see meta talking about this, you probably see a lot of other guilds talking about this, about how they're forced to stack Discipline Priest and Holy Paladins in order to have the best chance of getting that world first skill. And these changes are not really going to change any of that. Even though Glimmer of Light has now a maximum of 8 targets, this change is going to be around like 5-6% nerf overall, and it's mainly to do with the burst healing that Holy Paladins provide. In Mythic Plus is probably not going to affect it that much. So overall, Blizzard did this change to nerf Holy Paladins in raids but leave them alone in Mythic Plus, and they kind of achieved that, but this is probably not going to be substantial enough to change the meta. The same with Discipline Priest. The nerf itself is... The nerf for Discipline Priest is a lot lower than the nerf for Holy Paladins, but that is understandable because if you look at the healing, Holy Paladin raw throughput with Glimmer of Light is actually insane. But a lot of people will come down and complain about the healing balance that's going to emerge in 8.3. And I know it's early, there's a lot of things that are going to change in PTO, there's a lot of things that are probably going to be introduced, but people are already calling for changes because this is the time to change Blizzard's opinion, or maybe give pointers towards Blizzard in terms of what should be changed. And for mythic progression, a lot of these healers, Holy Paladin, Discipline Priest, it's not their healing that really makes them outstanding. It's their ability to deal damage and heal at the same time. Then they also have damage reduction cooldowns. Like, you can look at the damage of healers in the 75th percentile, and you can see Holy Paladin can do a lot of damage, Discipline Priest can do a lot of damage, and on top of that they can still do a lot of healing. And again, they have damage reduction cooldowns. So the way that I group healers right now, you have these DPS slash healers, which is Holy Paladin, Discipline Priest. Resto Shaman is kind of stuck in the middle there as the third most popular spec. They're able to deal damage, but they have to go like Ignis Potential if they really want to push their DPS, but they still have the damage reduction cooldowns with Spirit Link. They still have the flexibility, but they're just not quite the top tier. And then after that, you have what I'll refer to as the pure HPS healers, and that is Holy Priest, Mistweaver Monk, and Resto Druid. These healers could do a whole lot of healing. Even if they got a buff to their HPS, it would not mean that they would be in the meta, because they have to make sacrifices if they want to, for example, decide to DPS. They don't really have damage reduction cooldowns. Now, you could argue to some extent that some of the throughput cooldowns that these healers have are really, really strong, and depending on the damage patterns of the fight, they might be very valuable. And I'm not diminishing that. It's also dependent on the type of fights. There's going to be 12 fights in the new raid, and I'm sure there's going to be certain fights which will favor some of these pure HPS throughput healers. But at the end of the day, DPS healers are going to do really, really well. So how are these changes going to affect them? Like I mentioned before, these nerfs are not looking... They're not looking like they're going to change anything in terms of meta. If these changes would go live right now and the raid would come out, people will probably be using double Holy Paladin, double Disc Priest. Maybe there'll be a Resto Shaman coming in there, especially if you need that Balrest totem cheesing. So again, 12 bosses, there's a chance of totem or Balrest totem cheesing as well happening. But overall, they're not achieving what they're supposed to, or at least Blizzard intent is clear, but they're not achieving that. So what is my speculation? I think Blizzard is actually gonna nerf Holy Paladins and Discs a bit more. I think Holy Paladins might get mana attachment to Crusader Strike, because Why would one of the healing specs out of the 6 healing specs that are available in the game, why would one of them not care about mana at all? And that is Holy Paladin basically. So I feel they will attach mana to Crusader Strike. I feel they will be scared about how ERT or Ever Rising Tide Major is going to interact. Maybe Holy Paladins will be able to stack this healing buff. Maybe they'll add a huge mana constraint to Crusader Strike. Maybe they won't let it interact at all. I don't know, but I feel they will have to do something about the mana constraints or lack of mana constraints for Holy Paladins. And for Discipline Priest, I feel they will or they could nerf the damage that this priest can provide. And that is one of the big advantages of a Discipline Priest in Mythic progression is their DPS. If they nerf the DPS by quite a bit, you might start thinking about shuffling certain or getting in some other healers maybe in there. And again, I need to talk about another big change, and that is Mistweaver Rising Mist. Now Rising Mist, the increase here by 30% is really quite small. Rising Mist needs to have a huge increase in order to become viable. So all of a sudden, Mistweavers might be picking Rising Mist if it has a substantial increase, and the playstyle is going to be a lot more difficult. The fist weaving playstyle, where you have to kind of anticipate damage, you'll probably want to use your essence font when the damage comes in. You'll want to make sure that your Rising Sun King is off cooldown. You want to maybe save your Thunder Focus T. You'll pop your Thunder Focus T. You activate your Rising Sun King. This lowers the cooldown of Rising Sun King. You activate Rising Sun King again, and maybe you already had like other stacks available to reset Rising Sun King again. You might be able to like really optimize this spec. It's a whole lot more difficult than Upwelling. So should the Rising Mist playstyle, the fist weaving playstyle, be more dominant or provide more HPS than Upwelling? Upwelling doesn't really require a whole lot of thinking. Essence Font becomes insanely powerful. It's already very strong, but with Upwelling you'll basically use Essence Font when there's damage coming, because you don't want to delay your best healing ability. So should Rising Mist be increased substantially to provide a bigger HPS boost than Upwelling? Or should the Rising Mist build be on the same level in terms of HPS as Upwelling, but the damage that's provided from Fist Weaving is the bonus? That's the question that I've been thinking about for a really long time now. I'm not sure should Rising Mist provide more HPS on top of extra damage, because you'll always be kicking or dealing damage to the boss. So it's a very interesting argument, and I kind of looked at healer performance and I made a little chart. Now, take this with a pinch of salt or whatever. This is it's a bit of a meme spec here, or a bit of a meme image here. So this is the image of the lower quartile performance and upper quartile performance for each of the healing specs right here. And I kind of wanted to see the difference between them. So you could argue the fact that if a spec has a big difference between a lower performing points and high performing points, that means there is a skill ceiling or high skill ceiling. You could argue that point to some extent, but I said like this is a bit of a meme spec, but I put the numbers down basically based on the difference. So you can see that Holy Paladins and this is Discipline Priest, they have an 18-point difference, which could argue the fact again that they're the hardest playing or the hardest specs to play. Now the difference in Holy Paladins could account for the fact that there's a lot of Holy Paladins coming into Mythic with Glimmer spec. They're not sure what they're doing. They're not sure when to use cooldowns. And a lot of them are performing really badly. And the Paladins who actually know what they're doing really well. I won't consider Glimmer of Light to be a really hard spec, but these numbers might indicate something else. Now, Discipline Priest being the biggest difference between low performing and high performing makes a whole lot of sense. Discipline is one of the harder specs to play. It's a proactive healer. It requires knowledge of damage patterns. The same extent is Resto Druid. Believe it or not, Resto Druid is a lot more difficult to play than just putting rejuvenations. Contrary to many people who leave comments on my videos about Resto Druids, oh, it's just rejuve spam. It really is more than that, and I feel this is an indication of how you can time your cooldowns to achieve higher numbers. And after that, you have your Resto Shaman and you have your Holy Priest. Now, Resto Shaman, the difference here is smaller, is because I believe chain heal spam is back. You just press your Cloudburst, you press your Unleash Life, and you just chain heal, chain heal, chain heal. You use your Memory of Lucid Dream Major Essence, you use your ERT Minor Essence, and you have the mana to chain heal the whole time. You don't really care about the cloud burst that much, the uptime is really high, you're just gonna let it pop off by itself. And I honestly feel Resto Shaman has lost a lot of its difficulty over the years, especially when you look at Legion, where cloud burst only had one charge, you had Ancestral Guidance, you had this different rotation during Ancestral Guidance, and all of that thing. That's all of that is nearly gone. All of that is nearly gone. I feel Resto Shamans have become somewhat simple in raiding situations. The same with Holy Priest. Holy Priests were never really that hard, and Mistweaver is the lowest one. The lowest gap between lowest performing Mistweaver and the top performing Mistweaver is not that big, and that makes sense. Mistweavers, a lot of their talents or a lot of their spells are handled by the game. So this is all comes back to the point. Should Rising Mist playstyle be rewarded because it's going to be more difficult? Should it be substantially buffed to give a harder playstyle a more incentive? And also another argument can be said is that if Mistweaver Rising Mist is not buffed enough, or let's say it is buffed, it makes it live, it's one of the ways to go. What is the difference between a Mistweaver and a Holy Paladin? Mistweaver with Fistweaving build is going to be a Holy Paladin without Devotion Aura. You could argue that fact to some extent. So Mistweaver has to create its own niche, or Holy Paladin has to lose some of its niche. Or maybe you should have both of those healers. I feel like if Mistweaver Fistweaving is making a comeback, it should be substantially, substantially better HPS because it doesn't have a damage reduction cooldown. I'm not sure. It has to have something because Revival cannot compare to Devotion Aura at this given time. So this video has been basically a look at what changes could really mix up the meta, because the changes overall mentioned here, they're not gonna change anything at this given time. And it's not me who thinks this. I've looked at some of the Twitter responses, some of the Twitter messages from other healers in World of Warcraft, like Automatic Jack, who's tested some of the PTR bosses. Disc and Holy is still way too strong. Chris Potter, who's a healer in Method, I really don't want to be forced to run double Disc or double Paladin again just because they bring like 70k passive raid DPS combined. Again, referring to healer DPS as one of the points of measuring what healer is good. And JB actually responded to that tweet as well. There's no reason why any healer class should do more DPS than another. Healer damage counts just the same towards killing a boss as a DPS or tank damage. So a lot of the healers are complaining, or at least they're trying to shine a light on the difference between the DPS of healers. And I know it makes no sense for anyone who's coming into this game as a new player. I just want to play a healer, and I agree. If you're not looking to push really high-end content, you shouldn't worry about DPS. And you won't have to worry about DPS if you're pushing normal heroic content plus 10s. You don't have to worry about it. But a lot of the times when you're trying to progress, when you become better as a healer, you're starting to look for better guilds, you're starting to trying to push those world top 100s or whatever. This starts to really, really matter. And I feel the changes so far, they're not really gonna do anything. They're not really gonna shift the meta. And I kind of want the meta to shift. I don't know about you, but I want different healers to come in. And I feel Blizzard is trying to approach the right direction. It just needs a bit of a push. Let me know how you feel about this. Again, I wish that Blizzard would approach this in terms of let's buff all the other healers instead of nerfing the 2 healers. I wish they would do that, but it's always easier to have class balance changes applied to 2 healing specs instead of the 4 other ones. So again, you could also have a discussion about buffing versus nerfing. Again, leave your comments below. This is all about discussion. Hopefully we can have some civil discussion in the comments. I want to read your comments. I want to see what are your suggestions. What healer are you going to main in 8.3? What changes do you think that are going to happen? Let me know, and I'll see you in my next video.